welcome back to the channel. I'm here with Adrien Hinse from Hinse Brothers Mechanical, and today we're going to be talking about the pros and cons of traditional central air conditioning versus heat pumps. So, Adrien, let's start off with traditional air conditioning. Of course, we love them both, but traditional air conditioning, what are some of the pros? And then we'll talk about some of the cons.
With traditional air conditioning, some of the pros are cooling, right? Air conditioners can typically be a little bit lower cost than a heat pump. They are limited. So with an air conditioner, typically you don't want to run them below about 13 degrees Celsius. They tend to freeze up, lose efficiency, and a lot of them are quite loud. You can get some higher end units that are quieter, but you pay for it, right? So kind of the times have changed, right? And they've come out with new refrigerant. So they've redesigned everything, and used to be able to get little narrow side discharge units, good for apartment buildings, good for your house. They're nice and quiet, compact. And those used to be able to get in air conditioners. Now they're all heat pumps.
Okay.
And they range in different efficiencies and quality and things like that too. But they're a little bit more than a regular air conditioner, but not much. And the nice thing about a heat pump is you can cool in the shoulder season. So hot during the day, cold at night, doesn't affect the unit outside, because they're designed to actually still provide cooling down to about minus 15.
Okay.
Right? So you don't have that same issue with freeze up and the efficiency, and they'll automatically thaw themselves out if they do start to freeze up. And, variable capacity. It's easier to get two-stage cooling. So most air conditioners in our area are single stage.
Right.
So basically you have one speed in the furnace, or your blower speed, and it's on or off. You don't get to choose kind of what speed it's running. So I know my wife, she's pretty sensitive to air. If it's hot or cold, got a vent right under her desk, always working at her desk, right? And she's constantly closing the register or putting something over top of it, or, partially. And that's because there was a lot of wind speed, a lot of blower speed,
Gotcha.
right? And so it just freeze her or overheat her, whatever have you. But with a two-stage heat pump, it allows you to use two speeds.
Nice.
So if you're just maintaining a temperature in the home, so you like to keep it at 23 or 22, something like that, it'll just come on basically 60% of the airflow. And with a heat pump being variable capacity, that makes it's able to do that without freeze up and things, because they require a sufficient amount of airflow through your evaporator coil. That's the component that sits above your furnace or below, or whatever, depends on your system. And the air has to pass through that coil to keep it thawed out, because you've got cold refrigerant running through there. Wind passes through it, keeps it thawed out, transfers cold air to the rest of the home. And with a variable speed heat pump, with two-stage, it can regulate itself so it doesn't freeze up. And you can run lower fan speeds and it won't freeze up. So it's a nice option to be able to dial in. So at my home, I put in a two-stage side discharge heat pump, a Lennox, and you can't even hear the thing run. Basically, it's just a little bit of wind. My neighbors are just loving it because their deck is really close to it. And so it's not interrupting their conversations, clicking on and off, and making noise. Like a standard air conditioner, think about it as 76 decibels. So that's like your bar voice, right?
Yeah.
You're talking really loudly. Or 55 decibels, which is a significantly quieter unit.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a lot quieter. That's like a quiet conversation.
Yeah.
Is how loud that is. Yeah.
And that, coupled with my Lennox Signature Series modulating furnace, on the thermostat, I can actually dial in the CFMs I want for each stage. So it was pretty high, you know, about 1100 CFM, blowing there really hard. So I brought that down to 900, and I actually have the cooling down to 400.
Okay.
You know, if it doesn't quite cool fast enough, you can raise that a little bit. You can fine tune, adjust. So it's really nice to have that option. So I find it a lot more comfortable in the home now since I've done that.
Nice. And the heat pumps, they use less electricity on startup. They don't have that big bump when they're firing up the compressor like traditional air conditioners.
Yeah, right. They ease into it.
Yes.
Right. They start off slower, and the efficiency level is also a lot higher. So I think the one I have is 19.2 efficiency, which is quite high. Mm-hmm. Typical, say a few years ago, typical air conditioner that you might get, you want an economy, you're looking at 13 SEER. Mm-hmm. And so the usage of electricity is actually a fair bit lower now too.
Yeah, which is great because, you know, electricity prices are never going down, always going up, always going in the upward direction. So any way you can, you know, save a little bit on those energy costs is great. The other thing that a heat pump can do that a traditional air conditioner can't do is provide some heat.
That's right. I was just going to get
Talk
into
a little bit about that.
Yeah. So for heating, they don't have the same heating capacity as a furnace, so the air isn't really hot. So basically, it's going to run longer at cooler temperatures. And we just use them in mild temperatures outside. So I think I have mine set at 10 degrees. And so when it's 10 degrees or warmer and I still need some heat in the house, the heat pump outside will take care of it. Right. And it's just a gentle breeze. It runs a little longer, but it's just the compressor running. It's not using massive amounts of electricity or anything like that. And, you know, it's just that added option. You do need a thermostat that'll work with dual fuel, it's called. Mm-hmm. So when it comes below the 10 degrees, it'll kick in the furnace.
Yeah.
And give you that hot air faster, right?
Yeah, and the nice thing about having the heat pump is it's not using some type of electric coil in there to heat up the air. It is just using the refrigerant in a different way.
Yeah, reverses the flow.
Exactly. Yeah. So that basically it's just the natural occurrence of the refrigerant flow that is, you know, giving that differential for the heat. So there's not any extra power. It's just running the compressor and the fan. And I think that is a big advantage for homeowners in Alberta, because we have some in this building where we are now, and they provide some heat and warmth, like supplemental heat and warmth down to below minus 25 sometimes. And it's pretty remarkable that we're still cranking out, you know, a decent temperature from them, even when it's that cold outside.
And what would you say was the biggest problem you had that led to the idea of you got ductless mini splits?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you've got a fan coil in the different offices, and the remote controls your thermostat, right?
Yeah.
So you can dial in the temperature wherever the fan coil is.
Yeah. Biggest problem we had in here was we had so many computer units with big monitor sets on them. And they're producing around 900 watts plus the machines below. So probably about 1,300 watts total of heat on 24/7 basis. So pretty hot as far as supplemental heat. So the central AC could not keep up. Just couldn't keep up.
And then it won't run. It doesn't typically run below. You can put like low ambient kits on them that'll allow them to run to 5 degrees, maybe 0, and a coil basically to keep it thawed out. Yeah. But they're not naturally able to do that, right?
That's right. So it would get really warm in here. The shoulder seasons were torture because it was so hot in here. It was just unbearably hot, but there was nothing you could really do to manage that. So getting the mini splits throughout the office space was the right choice. So we have the best of both worlds. We've got a central AC/furnace as well as ductless mini splits throughout the building. So that helps us to manage the heating and cooling year round.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You've got the sun beating in through the windows and all that adds to that heat. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. So like all the rooms that have the big computer units in them, Every room has its own mini split, so you can control the temperature.
Yeah.
Love it.
Basically a no-brainer.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody who, has, troubles, especially in those, shoulder seasons with either being too hot or too cold, you can manage that a lot easier with heat pumps and mini split systems. So is there anything that we forgot to discuss about pros and cons between the mini splits and the traditional air conditioning units?
I guess there's a little bit of stigma around heat pumps.
Okay.
In our area. So people sometimes when you bring up, they call you for a quote. I want a quote on an air conditioner. Okay. I'll come in. I can do a quote for an air conditioner. And then as soon as they hear the term heat pump, they're like, oh, but I've heard they don't heat enough in our climate. That is true. Mm-hmm. They don't heat the same as a furnace.
Right.
They don't produce as many BTUs for the heating, but they make wonderful air conditioners. And with those added benefits, sometimes it's worth a little bit extra and not even much. In some cases, depends on what you're after, to go with a heat pump. And with the spacing between houses nowadays, new houses, there's not a lot of room to work with. Right.
Especially with the zero lot line houses where basically the house is the fence. That's literally some lots are like
sometimes your only option is to put it in the back of the house right next to your deck.
Yeah.
And who wants to be trying to talk over this noisy air conditioner when you can have just sounds like there's a fan running basically, right? Yeah. So you can speak at a normal tone. You don't have to worry about it. Neighbors aren't complaining. And if you do have to put it on the side of your house, rather than coming off the house 30 some inches, you're closer to 20. And that 10 inches doesn't sound like much, but when you have a walkway, it makes a big difference.
Yeah, massive difference. And it provides really the same level of cooling. It's just more efficient. It doesn't use as much electricity. So all around, I think, heat pumps are a really great option for anybody who wants an air conditioner. Just if you want to save some money, quote unquote, save money in the short term, then your traditional standard air conditioner, I guess, would be the way you'd want to go.
Absolutely.
All right. Awesome. Well, that's it for me, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, Adrien, for sharing with us today. If you guys are looking for a quote on an AC or want to learn more about heat pumps, call Adrien at Hinse Brothers Mechanical. So that's hinsemechanical.com, and Adrien will come out and give you a quote. See you guys in the next video.
Thank you.